When Partington and the others came before the spot where the king and queen sat, the 4 yeomen bent their knees and doffed their caps unto her. King Henry leaned far forward and stared at them closely, but the Bishop of Hereford, when he saw their faces, started as though stung by a wasp. He opened his mouth, and though about to speak, but looking up, he saw the queen gazing at him with a smile upon her lips, so he said nothing, but bit his lip, while his face was red as a cherry. Then the queen leaned forward and spake in a clear voice. "Locksley," said she, "I may have a wager with the king that thou and 2 of thy men can outshoot any 3 that he can send against you. Wilt thou do thy best for my sake?" "Yea," quoth Robin Hood, to whom she spake, "I will do my best for thy sake, and if I fail I make my vow never to finger bowstring more." Now, although Little John had been somewhat abashed in the queen's bower, he felt himself the sturdy fellow he was when the soles of his feet pressed green grass again. So he said boldly, "No blessing on thy sweet face, say I, and there I live a man that would not do the best for thee. I will say nothing, only I would like to have the cracking of this knave's pate." "Peace, Little John," said Robin Hood hastily in a low voice, but good Queen Eleanor laughed aloud, and a ripple of merriment sounded all over the booth. The Bishop of Hereford did not laugh, neither did the king, but he turned to the queen, and quoth he, "Who are these men that thou hast brought before us?" Then up spoke the bishop hastily, for he could hold his pace no longer. "Your Majesty," quoth he, "yond fellow in blue is a certain outlawed thief of the mid-country named Robin Hood. Yon tall, strapping villain goeth by the name of Little John. The other fellow in green is a certain black sliding gentleman known as Will Scarlet. The man in red is a rouge of a northern minstrel named Allan a Dale." At this speech the king's brows drew together blackly, and he turned to the queen. "Is this true?" said he sternly. "Yea," said the queen, smiling. "The bishop hath told us the truth, and truly he should know them well, for he and 2 of his friars spent 3 days in merry sport with Robin Hood in Sherwood Forest. I did little think that the good bishop would so betray his friends, but bear in mind that thou hast pledged thy promise for the safety of these good yeomen for 40 days. "I will keep my promise," said the king in a deep voice that showed the anger in his heart. "But when these 40 days are gone, let this outlaw look to himself, for mayhap things will not go so smoothly with him as he would like." Then he turned to his archers, who stood near the Sherwood yeomen, listening and wondering at all that passed. Quoth he, "Gilbert, and thou, Tempest, and thou, Hubert, I have pledged myself that ye shall shoot against these 3 fellows. If ye outshoot the knave, I will fill your caps with silver pennies. If ye fail, ye shall lose your prize that ye have won so fairly, and they go to them that shoot against you man to man. Do your best, lads, and if ye win this bout, ye shall be glad of it to the last day of your lives. Go now, and get you gone to the butts." Then the 3 archers of the king turned and went back to their booths, and Robin and his men went to their places at the mark from which they were to shoot. Then they strung their bows and made themselves ready, looking over their quivers of arrows and picking out the roundest and the best feathered. But when the king's archers went to their tents, they told their friends all that had passed, and how that these 4 men were the famous Robin Hood, and 3 of his band, to wit, Little John, Will Scarlet, and Eleanor Dale. The news of this buzzed around among the archers in the booths, for there was not a man there that had not heard of these great mid-country yeomen. From the archers the news was taken by the crowd that looked on at the shooting, so that at least everybody stood up, craning their necks to catch sight of the famous outlaws. 6 fresh targets were now set up, 1 for each man that was to shoot. Whereupon Gilbert and Tempest and Hubert came straightway forth from the booths. Then Robin Hood and Gilbert of the White Hand tossed a farthing aloft to see who should lead the shooting, and the lot fell to Gilbert's side. Thereupon he called upon Hubert of Suffolk to lead. Hubert took his place, planted his foot firmly, and fitted a fair, smoothened arrow. Then, breathing upon his fingertips, he drew the string slowly and carefully. The arrow sped true, and lodged in the white. Again he shot, and again he hit the clod. A 3rd shaft he sped, but this time failed at the centre, and but struck the black, yet not more than a finger's breadth from the white. At this a shout went up, for it was the best shooting that Hubert had yet done that day. Merry Robin laughed, and quoth he, "Thou wilt have an ill time bettering that round, Will, for it is thy turn next. Brace thy tweeze, lad, and bring not shame upon Sherwood." Then Will Scarlet took his place, but because of over-caution, he spoiled his target with the very first arrow that he sped, for he hit the next ring to the black, the 2nd from the centre. At this Robin bit his lip. "Lad," quoth he, "hold not the string so long. Have I not often told thee what Gaffer Swansholt saith, that over caution splitteth the milk?" To this Will Scarlet took heed. So the next arrow he shot lodged fairly in the centre ring. Again he shot, and again he smoothened the centre. But for all that, stout Hubert had outshot him, and showed the better target. Then all those that looked on clapped their hands for joy, because that Hubert had overcome the stranger. Quoth the king grimly to the queen, "If thy archers shoot no better than that, thou art like the loose thy wedger, lady." But Queen Eleanor smiled, for she looked for better things from Robin and Little John. And now Tempest took his place to shoot. He also took overheat to what he was about, and so he fell into Will Scarlet's arrow. The first arrow he struck into the centre ring, but the 2nd missed the mark, and smoothed the black. The last arrow was tipped with luck, for it smoothed the very centre of the cloth, up on the black spot that marked it. Quoth Robin Hood, "That is the sweetest shot that hath been sped this day, but nevertheless, friend Tempest, thy cake is burnt, methinkest. Little John is thy next turn." So Little John took his place as bidden, and shot his 3 arrows quickly. He never launched his bow arm in all the shooting, but befitted each shaft with his longbow raised. Yet all 3 of his arrows smote the center within easy distance of the black. At this no sound of shouting was heard, for although it was the best shooting that had been done that day, the folk of London town did not like to see that stout tempers overcame by a fellow from the countryside, even were he as famous as Little John. And now stout Gilbert of the White Hand took his place and shot with greatest care, and again, for the 3rd time in one day, he struck all 3 staffs into the cloth.